son or daughter is a Star Wars fan, the first thing they're going to ask for are the figures.
The reason they're 3 inches tall is because the first mock-up figures that I made were Fisher-Price Adventure People.
Welcome back to GFT. Here is a new episode with your host Chris B. Thanks for tuning in. This will be fun. Let's discuss figures and the latest toy run from a galaxy far, far away. Let's dive into the news and what's next in your display. From the Black Series to TVC, from Hasbro to the Kenner Legacy. 3 inches, 6 inches tall. Galactic Figure Talk covers it all. Displaying, rearranging the collection. Discussing figures, asking Hasbro for perfection. The thrill of the hunt, filling gaps is the mission. Always on the move, always wanting mint condition.
I have 3 of each, 1 to display, 1 to open, and 1 just in case.
We finally launched 6-inch when I felt the time was right.
Displaying, rearranging the collection.
I am Boba Fett. I cost more.
Discussing figures, asking Hasbro for perfection. The thrill of the hunt, filling gaps is the mission. Always on the move, always wanting mint condition. Rapid firing fet, the early bird kit. So many topics to cover, which one to pick? Bent corners or creases on the card. Are bubbles too big, obstructing the art? Super articulation or 5POA? Soft good robes or plastic capes? Okay, maybe a live stream or pipeline reveal. Clearance find or an online deal. Whatever the topic may be, it's all driven by the GFT community. Rearranging the collection.
I don't think I ever left the DeLorean guard behind.
Discussing figures, asking Hasbro for perfection.
Listen to the waves. Don't you hear it? The lightsaber.
The hunt, filling gaps is the mission. Always on the move, always wanting mint condition. Display, rearranging the collection. Discussing figures, asking Hasbro for perfection. The thrill of the hunt, filling gaps is the mission. Always on the move, always wanting mint condition.
The action figures are still exceedingly important to me.
400 people lined up in the cold drizzle at midnight to be the first to get their hands on the new Star Wars merchandise.
I'm Luke Skywalker here rescuing
So without further ado, here is Chris B with a brand new episode of GFT.
Welcome to another episode of GFT Galactic Figure Talk. My name is Chris B. I'm your host, and on this episode, it's all about 2024 and Hasbro's Black Series 6-inch line. If you're into the 3/4 inch figures, please check out the previous podcast episode where I dedicated the entire episode to 2024 and the Vintage Collection and the Droid Factory line as well. And the episode, which was released just a few days ago, before that episode covered the Vintage Collection Ghost Vehicle. So if you're into the 3/4 inch line, those episodes are for you. This one here today is all about the Black Series 6-inch line and what was going on in 2024. So let's dive into it. So the Black Series 6-inch line is quite different in many ways from the 3/4 inch line in that it is based purely on the figures. We did have 2 vehicles this year though. We had the Bloodfin that came with Darth Maul, which was great. Plus we had the Stab with the Battle Droid, which is also great. It's really cool to see some of the vehicles, or at least smaller type vehicles, come back into Black Series. But we don't have playsets in 6-inch. We don't have any larger vehicles. We don't even have creatures currently. There's really not a whole lot of world building happening with Black Series. It is all based on the figures themselves. So there's just in general a lot less to talk about in comparison to what's going on with the 3/4 inch line, which covers so many different aspects of collecting. But Black Series, it's all about the action figures. I counted about 90 figures for Black Series for this year alone, which is quite a lot of figures. Lots of clone troopers, lots of battle droids, but good stuff though for the most part. And the one thing I think that Hasbro's done really well when it comes to 6-inch is that they cover new media entertainment. So when the Acolyte comes out, they had figures ready to go this year. For Skeleton Crew, they had figures ready to go. And I love that, absolutely dig that. Specifically for Skeleton Crew with Captain Brutus, such a cool looking character. Plus, we got the entire crew with all the kids and Jotnat Nawut on top of that. So they really started out strong. And I feel like because they focused their attention on current media with Black Series, once you have the core characters, then you can start building on top of that and just start expanding that. Whereas in the 3 3/4 inch line, you're completely behind on everything when it comes to new media entertainment. So I think that for 2024, the Acolyte figures were great. The Skeleton Crew figures were also great. And it's really cool to see that support for the stuff that we're excited about when it comes out, because we're all watching new Star Wars shows every week when it's out on Disney Plus, and so having the figures to go with that right off the bat is just amazing. I think that's exactly the way it should be. Now in 2024, I also really enjoyed that Hasbro did something for the 25th anniversary for The Phantom Menace. There were two sets specifically which stood out to me, which came in throwback packaging from back in 1999 with what Hasbro had done back then for the 3 3/4 inch line. And they gave us a Darth Maul figure with the Bloodfin vehicle plus the battle droid with the stab. That was also a throwback packaging thing for the 25th anniversary. But besides those, we also got a really cool set at GameStop, which is a 3-pack, which includes an Episode 1 Obi-Wan, a Qui-Gon Jinn, and a Darth Maul figure, which gives us all 3 characters that battled at the end of Episode 1, which is really cool. And those figures, I think, are great because they are complete. They do come with their soft goods, and it just looks great on display when you have that set up properly. And I really enjoy what they've done here. But also for single box figures for the Phantom Menace, I mean, we got a Destroyer droid this year, which is really cool in Episode 1 packaging. They came out with a Padme and little Anakin on top of that. So for the Phantom Menace in 2024, I think it was a pretty good year. Hasbro also has put out quite a few prequel figures, specifically some of the Troop Builder figures. I don't know if troop building is really a thing in 6-inch. I think most people buy 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 of one figure. It's not like you buy 50, 60, or 70, or 100 like you do in 3 3/4 inch sometimes. But it is interesting to see that they have finally come out with a Super Battle Droid, which is really cool. And the weird thing about the Super Battle Droid is that it does have a removable top panel, which gives you a bit of a look into the inner workings of the droids. And in none of the press material that I've received was one picture that would actually show this feature, which is really weird because it is implemented into the figure, and it's just kind of like, yeah, they're not highlighting that at all, which is kind of weird. But anyways, they've done a Super Battle Droid from Attack of the Clones. They repainted this one for the Jedi Survivor 3-pack that's exclusive on Amazon. And then they also gave us a version that was packed in with C-3PO based on the Battle of Geonosis. So they've done 3 Super Battle Droids in 2024. We've also gotten a bunch of B-1 Battle Droids. I already talked about the one that was packed in together with the Stab vehicle, but they also did one that was packed in with a Phase 2 Clone Trooper, and then they also did one that was repainted with colors as seen in Jedi Survivor, the video game. So for droids, it was a pretty good year. We also had droids at Target with the Pit Droid set and a repack of R5-D4. We also had the Grief Karga droid that was exclusive at Walmart. Also, I really enjoy the Magna Guard droid, for example, and they've done a repaint of that one for Jedi Survivor, Amazon exclusive, but it has the soft goods around the figure, has a unique paint application, and if you're into Separatists' forces, for example, I think that is really good to see that they're putting out those kinds of figures. Now in 2024, there were a couple of assortments within the Black Series line which I thought were done pretty well. I mean, they have these troop builder sets which come in windowless packaging. Isn't it funny that all of a sudden windowless isn't a problem anymore for people and they're just being embraced the way they are? But yeah, they're doing those troop builder sets. I mean, we've seen the A&H Stormtrooper, or I think it was a Rogue One Stormtrooper actually, packed in with the Rebel Fleet Trooper, and they're doing more of those. And the thing with those 2-packs is that they are priced really competitively at $39.99. I think that is done really, really well. They've also done a Phase 2 Clone Trooper in all white armor with the B-1 battle droid. And they already announced that this is going to continue into 2025 with a Super Battle Droid and a Clone Trooper. So again, the $40 price tag for those kinds of sets is really competitive, and I think that is really good. I mean, those are 2013 prices, right, you guys? But besides those types of 2-packs, they also have these other 2-packs which do have the window on the front. Some of them are referenced as Army of the Republic, some are not, but they've done quite a few of those sets this year, and they seem to have done fairly well overall, I want to say. I think the latest one that's going to come out in 2025 is the one with the 212th Battalion Clone Trooper with the Phase 2 helmet and Obi-Wan in his Clone Trooper armor, and that's sold out on Hasbro Pulse. But for this year, they've done Yoda and Commander Grief, for example. They've done a 332nd clone with a clone lieutenant. They also did Captain Enoch and a Night Trooper 2-pack, which again was priced fairly competitively at $45. There was also a Shriek Hawk Mandalorian 2-pack that was exclusive to Walmart, just like the Captain Enoch set, and I'll talk about that in a second. But for the most part, I thought that was a really good concept because, again, you know, we're paying $25 now for a basic Black Series figure, and if you can bundle them together and make them cheaper for us to collect, I'm all for that. Now in 2024, the Black Series line saw another packaging change, and back in March of 2024 they announced this, and then the figures started coming out towards the end of 2024 in that new style of packaging. The front of the box now has a slightly smaller plastic window. They're also listing the figure number on the front of the box, which they had not done before. And the boxes are now square. They're not slanted anymore, but you can still build your side mural. So if you want to collect one of each and you want to build the mural on your shelf, you can still line them up nicely next to each other, and there really isn't a big change. But I did notice though that the front of the box feels a lot more like cardboard now. Many of the figures that I've received online, even when they were mailed in boxes, came with some sort of color loss or some rubbing issues on the front, and I don't collect boxed, so it's not really an issue for me personally, but that is definitely something I noticed, and I feel like the quality of the boxes has decreased, and it is noticeable. But I did not see any complaints about it online, so I think that transition from one packaging style to the other went fairly smoothly. One thing I also noticed though is that for the side mural, because I take the pictures of those and I put the side murals and I stitch them together, and then you can look at them on, you know, galacticfigures.com to see what the mural looks like, basically. And I did notice that the packaging doesn't line up as nicely as it did before when the boxes were still slanted. And I think it has something to do with the way the box is folded and whether the box is taped shut properly or not. And if the edge isn't a 90-degree angle, then it does look a little off on the shelf. So it's just something I noticed, but like I said, I've not seen any complaints in the Galactic Figures community about it, so I don't think that's an issue for most people, at least. So 2024 had some pretty cool figures released in Black Series, and my personal top 5 include Admiral Thrawn from the Ahsoka TV series. I really like how they got the body type right for Thrawn. I really enjoyed Captain Brutus from the Skeleton Crew. I love getting that Darth Sidious figure in Black Series line. I think that turned out really well. And I like getting the Super Battle Droid finally in this line. And then last but not least, I'm picking Jackie Lawn from the Acolyte. I think that is a cool character and a cool Black Series figure on top of that. So that's my personal top 5. Admiral Thrawn, Captain Brutus, Darth Sidious, the Super Battle Droid, and Jackie Lon from The Acolyte. Alright, so 2024 and shortcomings for Black Series. I could seriously just complain about this for like an hour, but I'm gonna keep it really brief. But you guys need to hear this. Paint applications on Black Series figures matter. Figures need to have a wash, need to have dirt on the boots when it's required. Stop releasing all clean, almost entirely unpainted Black Series figures. It doesn't look right. It looks cheap. It cheapens the line. If those figures are not done better than what you're getting in 3 3/4 inch, nobody needs those figures. Too many repacks, too many repaints in Black Series. 2024 saw about 90 figures in the Black Series line. Way too many figures. Holocom figure repaints, Halloween figure repaints. Thank God we didn't get any of those Christmas figures this year because they're still trying to get rid of the ones that they had last year, specifically at GameStop stores. So yes, too many repaints, too many trinket figures that nobody needs. At a $30 price point, or like $25 plus tax, I mean close to $30 for a basic Black Series figure, it is essential that they release complete figures. Stop putting figures out that don't have their capes or their robes when those characters are seen wearing them, mostly in the shows. Jedi Knights, Jedi Masters, those figures need to come with the robes. Ahsoka, Peridia, she was released this year without her robe. A lot of people are going to wait until you re-release her again, but including the robe. Nobody wants to have incomplete figures. Not at $30 when you pay for one. Bale and Skull, sitting at $8 currently at Walmart. It's been marked down for weeks and weeks and weeks leading up to the holiday season. Did not sell out. Hasbro, you got the scale wrong on this one. The figure is too short. Plus, you already released this figure where a lot of people bought in, and people just don't want to rebuy the same figure yet again because you now offer a complete version of it. You gotta get your figures right the first time around when you put it out. $30 is a lot of money to drop on the Black Series 6-inch figure. The same goes for Shin Hati. She's sitting at my local Target store now for $12.49. I think they had about 12 of her left on the peg last time I checked. I'm pretty sure that's even going to go further down than the $12.49 that it's at right now. Same thing that they've done with Bale and Skull. They released her first without her robes on. I think a lot of people bought into it. Now the only difference is that you include the robe. I think a lot of people are just completely turned off by that and are not even picking her up at $12.50 at this point. So to sum up the Black Series shortcomings in 2024, way too many figures, way too many trinket figures. Holocom completely tanked this year. Figures should be complete when they're released the first time around. No double dipping, triple dipping, quadruple dipping because you release incomplete figures. You got away with this kinds of stuff the first year when you did that, but people caught on to this and people are voting with their wallets. People don't want incomplete figures. And then last but not least, the lack of paint on some of those is really unfortunate these days. So that's where I'm going to wrap up this episode of GFT Galactic Figure Talk for 2024 and the Black Series line. Now you've heard my opinion about it from somebody who archives Black Series figures on galacticfigures.com, who basically picks up one of each, photographs them, and pays attention to what my audience is telling me in the Galactic Figures community. And that's just my takeaway. You know, all the negative stuff that I pointed out this year feels like it's a repeat of last year. Too much stuff, figures not painted well enough, too many repacks and repaints, and too many trinket figures. You know, Holocom, credit collection, and what have you. Just too much stuff out there. And the focus for Black Series seems like it's just all over the place. But like I mentioned earlier in the podcast episode, they did get a lot of things right. Some of the figures are really outstanding. You know, that Emperor Palpatine or the Darth Sidious figure from Episode 3 that they came out with this year is great. The Super Battle Droids were all great. The Destroyer Droid was great. We got a little Anakin this year. There's some stuff for Phantom Menace and 25th anniversary. So, yeah, they've done a lot of things right in 2024 for the Black Series line. So I'm going to just leave it at that. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts. So find me in the Galactic Figures community on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram. Also up on Facebook. Facebook, we have 160,000 followers. The Facebook group has, I think, 3,500 or so. It's a bit more cozy than on the actual Facebook page, so we can discuss figures there a little bit more intimately, I think. And Instagram, I think we have about, 17,000 followers now, so you can also voice your opinions there, but I feel like the best place to discuss figures is definitely in the Facebook group, just simply because you can start different threads, and it doesn't seem like it gets lost in the timeline as easily as it does on the Facebook page or on the Instagram page, for example. And of course, the place where I'm hanging out all the time is galacticfigures.com. So if you want to discuss those figures with me, make sure you post it in the community, and we'll discuss those figures. All right, so that's it for the look back at 2024 on Black Series. If you're also into the vintage collection, please check out the 2 episodes I released previously. One was dedicated to the Ghost vehicle. That was the HasLab this year, or not this year, it's 2025 now, so for 2024. And then also one episode was a look back at the vintage collection and the Droid factory line for 3 3/4 inch in 2024. So make sure you check out those episodes as well. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you have a wonderful 2025. Light speed ahead, and I'll catch you on the next one.